presentation on voluntary state action plans on CO2 emissions reduction and associated assistance to states. So please join me in welcoming Chrystelle, Damar, and Eduardo Caldera.
Thank you very much. So welcome to this workshop on the ICAO's Voluntary State Action Plans Initiative. My objective today is that you leave this room being convinced that state action plans are a great tool for states to initiate a national strategy to deal with their aviation, international aviation CO2 emissions, and that ICAO is actually doing a lot to support states in this regard. So our flight plan is to look into the definition and the structure of an action plan, and to take stock of the progress achieved so far and to analyze the reasons for that progress as well. And then we will end with what we see as the way forward for this initiative. Since 2010 and the adoption of Resolution 837/19, ICAO states are invited to develop and submit a voluntary action plan on CO2 emissions reduction activities for international aviation. This date, 2010, is to be remembered as a milestone, as for the first time ever, states resolved to establish a clear and quantified plan to deal with their CO2 emissions from international aviation. So how did we turn this policy into one of the most successful ICAO's initiatives? As for any new project, before you can get states engaged, you have to explain them the purpose of the project and also to show them how it's relevant to their own activities. So for states, the end goal is not the action plan by itself. The action plan is actually the starting point for the selection and implementation of CO2 mitigation measures. And on its side, ICAO uses the quantified information included in the action plans to assess the collective progress against its aspirational goals of 2% annual fuel efficiency improvement and carbon neutral growth from 2020. Now the purpose of the action plan is clear. Let's see what the document itself should actually include. The first step a state has to take is to nominate a focal point. The role of the focal point is to coordinate national stakeholders and to lead the development of the action plan. It's also the point of contact with ICAO on all questions pertaining to the action plan. Focal points get specific access to dedicated workshops and also to tools that have been developed by ICAO to support them. And you see from this brief job description that this decision by a state is crucial for the success of the action plan initiative. So based on stakeholders' information or based on the state's own information, the next step is to develop a baseline. So what is a baseline? A baseline will show the evolution of fuel consumption and associated CO2 emissions until 2050 based on an estimated traffic growth if no mitigation action is taken at all. Then the setup of a national action plan team made of representatives from the CAA, airlines, airports, NSPs, but also Ministry of Transport or Ministry of Energy. This national action plan team can enable to discuss possible mitigation measures and exchange information on these mitigation measures. Mitigation measures can be as diverse as fleet renewal, ATM improvement, or even a sustainable alternative fuel project. Due to the diversity of the possible mitigation measures, it is important to have all major stakeholders around the table. because these stakeholders will also be able to give the quantified estimations of the CO2 emissions gains resulting from the implementation of mitigation measures. And this quantified information can be applied to the initial do nothing or baseline scenario, and then you have the expected outcome, which brings you to step 4 of the content of the action plan. Last but definitely not least, action plans are the state's a unique opportunity to flag their assistance needs. A state might have identified a range of mitigation actions, but would not necessarily have the human, the technical, or the financial resources to implement those mitigation actions. And this is why it is important to raise this in the action plan. So you've seen that the cooperative aspect of the action plan is one of the added value of this project. It is one of the many benefits that has been flagged and identified by states, but it's not the only one. So I have listed here other benefits that are not directly related to the quantification aspects of the document. One of them is the establishment of partnerships at national level that can give rise to possible transfer of technologies from one sector to the other. For states, beyond raising their international profile, state action plans are also a means to establish their respective policies and actions that can inspire other states. So where do we stand today? We're very proud to have 100 states that have submitted an action plan to ICAO on a voluntary basis, and they represent close to 90% of international air traffic. By all accounts, we consider this is a success. So we're going to see together how we can explain this success. Since 2010, we have established a comprehensive strategy to support states in the elaboration of their action plans. This strategy relies on 3 main pillars: guidance, tools, and capacity building and assistance. Talking about guidance, ICAO issued ICAO Doc 9988 to provide focal points and stakeholders with a clear step-by-step description of the information that should be included in the action plans, and also to refer to the tools that ICAO has developed in this respect. Based on the feedback from states, some aspects of this guidance document have been clarified, which led to updating this document, and a new version of it is available since the beginning of this year. The calculation tools. So we have developed a series of tools in order to help states collect data and analyze data related to the baseline, to the mitigation measures, and the expected results. Some of them are probably already known to you, like IFSET, which stands for the ICAO Fuel Saving Estimation Tools, that allows states with limited measurement or modeling capabilities to assess the fuel efficiency resulting from ATM improvement. The ICAO Carbon Emissions Calculator is a tool that will calculate CO2 emissions from origin to destination for cargo and passengers. It's one of the biggest hits on the ICAO website, and this tool is actually being used throughout the UN system. Last but not least, we have developed the environmental benefits tool specifically for the sake of the state action plans. All these tools are available on the APA website, and the APA website itself is accessible by the focal points. Coming back briefly on EBT, I wanted to stress that with this tool alone, and with the right input data, you can generate all the quantified information you need to put together the action plan. So either the baseline, the impact of the mitigation measures, and the expected outcomes, step 4, as we have seen in one of the previous slides. Bear with me. So you've seen a lot of information is available out there. And our biggest challenge is probably to disseminate this information to the right people, to the focal points and to the stakeholders, and to make it understood. And this is why the capacity building and assistance pillar of our strategy is so important. Capacity building and assistance can take different forms. They can be direct contacts with states through emails, phone conversations, or bilateral meetings. We have also organized a series of state action plan seminars in all of the ICAO regions. And on this occasion, we have trained 700 experts from 116 states. We have also launched the ICAO Buddy Program. So the Buddy Program was launched at the beginning of this year, whereby a state that has developed and submitted an action plan to ICAO can provide direct support to a state that has not done so yet. And we have done this in response to ICAO Resolution A3818, paragraph 13. To date, we have 3 buddy partnerships. Spain has supported Ukraine. Bulgaria has provided support to the former Yugoslav Republic of Macedonia, and currently Sao Tome and Principe is providing support to Cabo Verde. Further, on the theme of partnerships, we're thrilled to see the traction that state action plans has gained throughout the world, and that the benefits to the states and to the environment are such that the European Commission decided to support the State Action Plans initiative through a dedicated capacity building project. Eduardo Caldera, who is the consultant in charge of this ICAO EU-European Union project, will come on stage and get you some insights into the implementation of this project.
The ICAO and European Union Joint Assistance Project is a 6.5 million euros initiative to be implemented in a 4 years project that is providing technical assistance to 14 selected states in the African and the Caribbean regions in the area of environmental protection. The project activities are comprised within 3 main objectives. The first objective is the development of states' action plans on emissions reduction with robust data and in strict accordance with the recommendations of ICAO document 9988. The second objective is the establishment of efficient CO2 monitoring systems for international aviation in the selected states. The third objective is the implementation of pilot mitigation measures aiming at reducing fuel consumption and therefore CO2 emissions. This initiative has marked the beginning of an era of closer cooperation among member states that had a willingness to address environmental issues but required dedicated technical assistance in order to take concrete actions. We're very pleased with the results that have been achieved so far. The way the project has been implemented has involved the civil aviation authorities and stakeholders in every single step. Therefore, there is an increased awareness of environmental issues and more knowledge of the actions that can be put in place in order to address the impact of aviation on climate change. So far, the project has supported the establishment of national action plan teams in the 14 selected states, and these national action plan teams are key coordination mechanism that includes all the relevant stakeholders, not only in the development of the action plans, but more importantly in their implementation. 4 capacity building seminars specifically dedicated for these 14 states have been organized in 2014 and 2015 in both regions. These seminars provided training on the preparation of the action plans, the collection of historical data, the calculation of the baseline, and the selection of mitigation measures. As a result, all the 14 states under the project have submitted an action plan on emissions reduction to ICAO. These action plans contain robust data, high quality data, a selection of mitigation measures that covers the 7 categories of ICAO basket of measures, and all of them are fully compliant with the recommendations of ICAO document 9988. In addition, the 14 states have been equipped with an aviation environmental system for the collection of CO2 emissions data, and all of them are now able to submit CO2 emissions reports to ICAO on a monthly basis. More details on this tool, the aviation environmental system, will be provided in the next slides. Now, with the completion of the first and the second objective, the project has set the stage for the third objective, which aims not only at developing feasibility studies in the fields of alternative fuels and renewable energy, but also at implementing pilot mitigation measures in some of the states. These pilot mitigation measures, to be completed by 2018, include the solar power and gate electrification systems installed in 2 international airports of the selected states. These pilot measures, the solar to gate approach, will provide clean energy directly to the aircraft while it is parked at the gate, thus reducing fuel consumption and CO2 emissions. These are just pilot projects, and the expectation is that afterwards, when it is proved that has been successful, those will be replicated by the state at a larger scale at the national level or by other member states. One of the success stories of the ICAO European Union project so far has been the Aviation Environmental System, the AES. It has already drawn the attention of many other states outside of the project because it has proved to be a successful solution for the states to collect and monitor environmental related data. The AES is a monitoring, reporting, and verification tool developed in the scope of the ICAO EU project and provides the civil aviation authorities with a user-friendly tool for the collection of CO2 emissions from the national stakeholders, which mainly are the national airlines. The implementation of the system has led to the adoption of a single unified format called Form EMV1 to collect air traffic and fuel consumption from the external stakeholders, again, mostly national airlines. The tool also automatized the reporting process to ICAO. For instance, the submission of CO2 emissions reports to ICAO every month, or also the generation of the ICAO Form M that is supposed to be submitted to ICAO every year by the civil aviation authorities. Both reports are generated automatically by the system. The first version of the AES has been already installed in the 14 states. However, the tool continues to be improved based on the feedback that is being received from the users and according to further needs of the project. The AES is not only a tool, it is actually an integrated process system that includes the relevant stakeholders, which are mostly national airlines, the civil aviation authorities, and ICAO. This is why we call it a system. And the full participation and collaboration of all of those that are involved is key for the success of the system. The data is communicated in 2 main steps. First, data on individual flights is communicated by the external stakeholders to the Civil Aviation Authority, where it is imported into the AES. Then, the data is processed by the AES, and only aggregated data is then reported to ICAO. As you can see in more details on the graphic, the data collection step includes collection of historical data and current data. The historical data is used by the civil aviation authorities for the calculation of the baseline, which is the trend of CO2 emissions in the absence of mitigation measures, and for the calculation of the expected results, which is the trend of CO2 emissions with the implementation of mitigation measures. The baseline and the expected results are then input into the AES, and the tool uses these trends in order to compare it with the actual data that is monitored, the current data path on the diagram. For the monitoring of current data, it can be either input into this single unified format, Form UNV1, or it can be converted into Form ENV1 in those cases where the stakeholders uses a native format different from Form ENV1 to collect their emissions data. However, it is to be noted that this interface is supposed to be just a temporary solution, and that all stakeholders should eventually adopt the Form ENV1, the single unified format, for their collection of CO2 emissions data. The data in the standard format is then reported to the CAA either through an Excel spreadsheet or via an online submission through an interface in those cases where the Civil Aviation Authority has the capacity to develop and host such an interface in their own website. Subsequently, once the data is submitted to the CAA and processed by the AES conducts some data checks to validate that the information is consistent with the data that is already included in the database. Then the CAA can generate automatically aggregated reports, such as the CO2 emissions monthly reports that are submitted every month right now by the states under the project, and also for the production, the generation of the ICAO Form M under the ICAO Statistics Program that is submitted every year. For more information, you can contact the project team there in the booth, and also you would find some other materials related to the tool and related to this project. Now I will call back again our colleague Chrystelle Damar for the conclusions.
Thank you, Eduardo. So as you can see, a lot has been done already to support states develop their action plans, but we're interested in the future, and the future is paved with significant actions. We do need the support of the Assembly to keep states engaged in the initiative and to submit quantified action plans by June 2018. We also want to further support states, establish robust monitoring, reporting, and verification systems, such as the AES. We will update ICAO Doc 9988 and the APA website. And we want to continue facilitate states' access to financial resources through continued or new partnerships. And in this regard, we're absolutely delighted about the declaration of intent that was signed at the beginning of the week between European Commissioner for Transport, Violeta Bulc, and ICAO Secretary General Dr. Liu, which was a commitment to pursue the existing capacity building project that we have. So on this note, we're doing all this to leave no country behind. We thank you very much for your attention, and we remain at your disposal should you have any questions. Thank you.